Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolf Pit. Today in the next episode of What Are We Eating, I'm doing a comparison of the classic Spam, which almost everyone has tried at least once in their life, and the lesser known Spam knockoff canned meat called TREET. So let's get started. So let's look at the ingredients of Spam. Only 6 ingredients. It says pork with ham, which sounds redundant to me, since ham is pork. But from what I've read, the cut of pork is actually pork shoulder, which is the tastiest cut of pork in my opinion, so we're off to a good start. Now let's look at the ingredients of TREET. You immediately notice the list of ingredients takes up half the back of the can, while Spam's ingredients took a small corner of the can. And the first ingredient listed is mechanically separated chicken. Doesn't that just sound delicious? The number of ingredients is too long to list, so kudos to Spam for keeping it simple, but simple does not mean it's healthier. While we're on the can of TREET, let's go into the nutritional values. And just by looking at them, they speak for themselves. This is per 2-ounce serving. Realistically, the average person who likes TREET will consume 4 ounces or more. So a 4-ounce serving gives you half of your daily sodium and over a third of your cholesterol for the day. The remaining nutritional values aren't horrible, but certainly could be better. Now for the Spam, and you would think with much fewer ingredients than the TREET, it would be a little bit better, but this is definitely not the case. With the exception of cholesterol and carbohydrates, Spam has more calories, twice as much fat, more than double the saturated fat, more protein, which is the one good thing, and more sodium than TREET. Obviously, neither of these canned processed meats are healthy, but TREET is the lesser of the two evils. Both cans have a long shelf life, but I can guarantee with that amount of salt, they last many years beyond the dates. I suppose these would be great stockpile meats for an end-of-the-world situation when your health just doesn't matter anymore. Now when you open up the cans, you can immediately see a color difference. Why? I don't know, because both contain sodium nitrate, which usually causes a pinkish color in meat. But as you can tell, the Spam is basically white. Now here's what they look like out of the can, and I do have to say that the Spam slid right out while I really had to work to get the TREET out. You guys know me, I like to touch my meat. I know that doesn't sound right, but it's true. So I gave both a press, and the Spam was much firmer than the TREET. Not sure at this point if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I wanted to point it out. Now let's cut a piece of Spam. And a piece of TREET. And I noticed the firmness again when I was cutting the Spam. It's much more dense and firm than the TREET. Here's a side-by-side comparison, and they obviously look totally different, which they basically are, other than being canned processed meat in the same form. I have to be honest, I've eaten both Spam and TREET before, but never together. I don't like either one, but when I did eat them, I preferred the TREET. So let's see if the same is true when trying them together at the same time. So let's check the texture of the TREET. I broke it in half, and it broke pretty easily, and it's almost spongy. And once I put it in my mouth, it still had that spongy texture, and was a little bit salty, which I expected, and a little bit sweet, which I did not expect. And now for the Spam. And neither one was hard to break, but the Spam, you could tell, was much more firm and dense, more meat-like. And the same thing goes for when I put it in my mouth. Definitely firmer and more meat-like texture than the TREET. But it definitely tasted much more saltier than the TREET. And like I said earlier, I already knew I wasn't going to like either one, but if I had my preference straight out of the can, I would eat the TREET. Now let's pan fry a piece of each and see how it changes the texture and flavor. I'm going to let these pan fry for about 3 to 4 minutes per side over medium heat. Now give them a flip and let them go for 3 to 4 more minutes. And I've got to say, I thought there would be a lot more rendered fat in the pan. Very interesting. As you can see, the TREET has a little more caramelization than the Spam. That 1 gram of sugar in the nutritional information explains that and the sweetness and taste when I tasted them. Even though they both have a nice crust on them now, the TREET still feels spongy compared to the Spam. One thing I noticed about the Spam was it formed a little bubble, almost like there's air trapped in it. I cooked several more pieces to see if it was just this one piece, but they all formed the same bubble. I thought that was not only weird, but interesting. And now for another taste test to see how they changed after being pan fried. I do have to say they both formed a really nice crust, as you can tell from me having the saw through them. And no, my knife is not dull. It cuts butter just fine. The Spam remained moist, and the texture didn't change much other than the crust. The treat, on the other hand, changed for the worse. Even though it had a nice crust and remained moist like the Spam, the inside was really mushy and spongy. Not a pleasant mouthfeel at all. Like I've already said, I don't like either one, but after being pan-fried, the texture of the Spam was much more appealing than the treat. Now for one final taste test on how these two products are recommended to be eaten by the pictures on the cans, as a sandwich. So I've gotten some highly processed white bread, slathered as much mayonnaise on it as I could to hopefully offset the saltiness, and topped it off with what else? Processed cheese, to make this as highly nutritious and delicious as possible. Even on a sandwich I'm not a fan. I much preferred the texture of the Spam, but ended up liking the treat better for two reasons. It was not nearly as salty as the Spam and had a hint of sweetness. This video is not meant to offend anyone who loves Spam or treat. Who am I to judge? I'm a huge fan of potted meat, probably one of the worst and nastiest things on this planet you can eat, but I love it. Spam and treat are health foods compared to potted meat, and believe it or not, Hawaiians love Spam and consume 7 million cans a year. Thank you all very much for watching. I'm not sure if I hope you give this a try or not, but do it at your own risk. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and come back every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday for new recipes and cooking videos.